There we go. Red Leaf Retrocast. Wrestling episode. Ricky, we're back. We're back. We got AEW to talk about with a amazing cage match. We got Wrestling Dontaku. New Japan is back, I'm happy to say. We've been trying to say it for
sure
a few months now, and boy does it feel like that more than ever. Japanese wrestling's finally pushing new stars again for the first time in just many years. I got
Absolutely.
a lot of Joshi to get into with a hell of a lot of Stardom. The Indies had a big week of Golden Week to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But sadly, very sadly, both our hockey teams just got smashed. What a brutal going for it.
Yeah, round 2 was pretty rough for my Devils. What can I say? It was a great season. This young team showed a lot of promise, and I think, obviously there will be changes in the off season, but everything that I saw this season and in the playoffs bodes well for the near future. I saw a lot of people giving the team shit about goaltending, which clearly they didn't have an elite goaltender. However, goaltending was not their only problem.
No, that series was Carolina was their problem.
Yeah, that team was known for their speed, and they couldn't keep up with Carolina except for that one game, which the game that they won against Carolina, that the final was 8-4. At one point, I think the score was like 7-1, and then Carolina scored 3 goals in a row.
Right.
It was not good. So yes, I don't think they should have continued to swap goalies out in the middle of a playoff run. But goaltending was not the major problem for that team. So
yeah, I found it very similar with critique of the Leafs during their series, how Ilya Samsonov wasn't delivering all these kinds of things. The main critique obviously is people are making fun of the starting lineup, the starting 3 with particularly Tavares and Matthews not being able to get the job done on the scoring end. But first of all, that elimination game that they had was kind of a culmination of the whole series, was a lot of bullshit. I know on the last podcast I was talking about how the referees had been pretty fair for the most part, but that whole series of Florida versus Toronto, I think I'm finally on your side now. Because that was just I'm on two sides of the coin here.
Yeah.
On one hand, yes, I think the referees made blatant calls, very much as in no calls in favor of Florida, and just easy penalties against Toronto. That was rampant throughout the series, with the exception of one game where it was fair, I felt, and that was the one that Toronto won. But when I look back now on the Boston series and how physical it was, there was kind of no calls being made throughout the entire series of that. So Florida came into the Toronto series very physical themselves, and they were getting away with it. So as the games went on in the series, they just kept getting more and more physical, and still nothing being called. I'm talking boarding, interference, tripping, just nothing being called left and right, and they just kept going harder until they basically played to see what they could get away with. And do I blame Toronto on not matching that physicality? I kind of do. I kind of see that they didn't match it, but then again, they really couldn't, because when they're getting delay of game calls off of just a weak puck that bounces into the audience. How physical can you play when you're getting calls against you like that? Yeah. So that was a huge disadvantage I saw. Yeah, it was very hard, but particularly obviously the goat in the room, goat in the room. I don't know if that's even a phrase. Elephant in the room. Well, maybe the goat, but yes. I don't know. Elephant in the room is the overtime game-winning goal, where it was Gudas not only just holding the stick blatantly on the game-winning goal against the defender. He was also tripping him and interference on top of it. So there's 3 calls that weren't made in one play on one guy right in front of the goalie on the game-winning goal. So and not to mention him screaming in front of the goalie as it goes off. Very memorable series, I will say. Toronto did not get swept, but Florida's now going to be a team that I'm going to be paying attention to for a long time because I find them all very goonish, very 90s-esque play style, and it worked for them. Yep. It's worked for them against Boston. It's worked for them against Toronto. And this Carolina series is going to be extremely interesting to watch.
I agree. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. But then the elephant in the room on your end is that heavy missed goal by the Devils. And then Jack Hughes going what is it, ass over tea kettle, going face first in the ice on the missed goal. Yeah. That's going to be a meme for years to come.
Yeah, the goal that clinched the series, just not. Yeah, I mean, we lost in overtime, right? So it was sudden death, and we died.
Devils did not make it.
We just laid over and died.
So no Red Leaf Retrocast of Maple Leafs against the Devils here. Unfortunately, Avs are out, and we have to probably deal with the sadness of Seattle Vegas in the Western Conference Finals because Edmonton cannot defend. They can't do it. I knew it was a problem that they had, and unless they score 6 goals a game, it's just not happening for them. McDavid can only do so much. Draisaitl can only score so many hat tricks. when you just don't have defense against any team in the NHL. It's just not happening. So who do we root for at this point? Carolina?
Okay, so I'm of 2 minds. But yes, usually when my team is eliminated from the playoffs, I root for the team that eliminated my team. If I'm going to go down, I want to go down to the team that is the best.
Right.
So I will probably root for Carolina. Now, if the Devils had lost to the Rangers, I wouldn't be rooting for the Rangers. But,
all right, we got a line drawn. There we go.
But yeah, I probably will continue to root for Carolina.
Yeah. So that's hockey talk. I could go into golf talk. Been doing that a lot. It's taken up a lot of my time. Look, work's been very stressful over the past 6 weeks. And I'm finding a lot of stress relief in the game of golf and me picking it up and really attempting to learn the basics well and getting better at it. I'm very excited for the summer and how it's going to play out and my journey. I got a... Look, I'm a beginner, so I got I practiced on the par 3 course on Thursday, went to a nice course. I put pictures out on Twitter on Friday, got a 50, so, getting 100 overall, and then a 51 on Saturday, so I'm consistent. That's where I'm at. I need practice on my putting. I got to practice my putting. I just don't have a straight back end stroke to it yet. I got a lot to work on there.
Well, I'm excited to hear about your progress.
Yeah. So anytime I have some new development in my game, I'll probably share it on one of my many podcasts. That's here on.
And bowling is done for the season?
I'm taking the summer off from bowling. So I will not. You will not be hearing much out of me on that. I might go out for a couple practice sessions here, but for the most part, it's my off season, and I'm going to use that off season much like the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I'm hitting the courses.
Sounds like a plan.
That's what I'm doing. Okay, I'm trying to pull up a notepad here of various notes, if you will. And then we can get into AEW. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Okay. Got it up. Now I got to get to the drop. What are we feeling? Kenny Omega? I think we're feeling Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so AEW, we're on the road to Double or Nothing here, so our next podcast will be covering that, I believe. That's how it will play out. And I guess we'll just do an overall heat check over the last couple weeks, and I'll just kind of go through the last couple weeks of Dynamite here in this card. We have 8-man tag, Adam Cole, Bandito, Cassidy, Roderick Strong showing up in AEW. Who saw that coming? Defeats the JAS team. Saraya defeats Willow Nightingale in a terrible match. It's very on par with the women's division these days. If it's not Athena, it's pretty bad. That's how I'm taking it right now.
Yeah,
By the way,
that's about right.
Did you watch that Athena Sky Blue match?
No, I did not. Is that a Ring of Honor match?
Yeah.
I've not been watching Ring of Honor.
Athena's hidden on AEW Dark Red and Black, and she's just anything she's doing there is worth the price of admission. Like I just like it's her and Emi Sakura, wherever those two are right now. They're in my opinion the best that's going on in American women's wrestling right now because of the variety and the just difference each match they have is and has been. They're incredible. Yeah. I know Bianca Belair and Io Shirai had a good match in Puerto Rico with a shit finish, but I still went 2 out of 3 on it. But Athena Sky Blue over in Ring of Honor was an excellent match. Great for the development of Sky Blue, and Athena attacking her after the match and doing heel shit. Great stuff. Highly recommend that.
So what are your thoughts on Athena being, I don't want to say stuck on Ring of Honor, because she's their champion, but what are your thoughts on her being in Ring of Honor and not featured on national television?
I think it's a miss on AEW, majorly. The Ring of Honor at this point needs an identity, and if its identity is indie and young talent getting reps and development, that's what it should be. They need to be running stories and angles, which they're really not doing. And Athena just kind of stuck there doing this amazing character and putting in good matches with whomever she's against. It's a huge miss that she's not on TV in some capacity. Now, with the prospect of Collision coming up later this summer, perhaps that's a good place for her. It's certainly not Ring of Honor. And such a low platform that it is, I believe Ring of Honor has potential to be something that AEW needs now that Dark and Elevation are what they are, or / going away and being replaced by this Collision, essentially. Athena, like, let me put it this way. Claudio's on AEW TV, and he's Ring of Honor champion. But Athena and Samoa Joe are seemingly just kind of out of sight, out of mind to the masses. And I think that's a huge miss. I think with what the women's division AEW is at this state in 2023, with a lot of their main talent and talent in ring that you want to see wrestle, and instead we're getting, I don't mean to pick on them, but we're getting Anna Jay and Julia Hart in matches on Dynamite. To me, that doesn't meet the standard that needs to be set. And don't get me wrong, I don't think that match was bad, but it definitely wasn't good. And it's just an example of people not being ready for Major League Wrestling.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And the fact that the only storyline in the women's division on AEW television lately has been the Outcasts versus the Originals. We've seen different combinations of the same match for the past at least 8 weeks.
Yeah, it's been more than that.
Yeah. Yeah. Bring me Athena. Bring me Emmy. Yeah. Hopefully with the more, 2 extra hours, we'll get some of that. And then Ring of Honor can go back to being what it was, which was a super indie.
It certainly should be.
And yeah.
Like
that's what I want. I mean, especially with the elimination of Dark and Dark Elevation, Ring of Honor should be the super indie where people get their reps. and AEW is, the big time.
Right. When I see guys like Action Andretti, for example, I think of what a place Ring of Honor would be for that kind of guy.
He's been featured on Ring of Honor, right? He's been tagging with Darius, I believe. I'm not watching. This is what I'm hearing and gathering, because I think I said something like, because Action Andretti showed up on Rampage just this past week before we're recording, and I was like, where the hell has he been? And everybody was like, oh, he kind of took Dante's spot in Top Flight after Dante's injury. I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
That's a good role.
Yeah.
And I think...
But why did he show up on Rampage this week?
Well, okay. So let me put it this way. In my opinion, Rampage should be used as a place to feature good matches and perhaps programs bleeding over from Ring of Honor.
Okay.
Something that you want to highlight from your other platform that not as many people are watching. And to get people ready for TV on a more consistent basis, Rampage could be that thing. Rampage also needs its own identity, and it's not the worst show out there, but it's like Ring of Honor and Rampage are very much parallels of each other in the sense of it's Tony Khan's kind of crux booking of he just likes these WWF superstars from 1992-esque cards and booking style.
Well, yeah, it's about the matchups and not the why they're matching up. But you're right. Like Rampage and Ring of Honor are both pre-recorded, so they're good practice for the talent that don't have the television experience. That's what Rampage should be. You're right. I'm behind that.
Yeah, and to an extent, that's what it already kind of is, with a lot less star-powered talent there. But the total lack of promos, stories, angles, if you will, the reason to watch the shows. This is what weekly wrestling television is. It's a big criticism I have with Japanese wrestling is there's just not enough angles and kind of juice to squeeze, if you will.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
Anyways, I digress. Wardlow squash match. Ricky Starks defeats Juice Robinson. Darby Allin and Mr. Jack Perry defeat MJF and Sammy Guevara in their convoluted let's make it a four-way story. And then we go to last week, where we had Claudio defeating Rey Fenix. They called it a double Jeopardy match. Sure. I like that. Orange Cassidy defeats Garcia. I like that. Julia Hart defeats Anna Jay, which, again, like I said, it wasn't good, but it also wasn't bad.
Sure.
House of Black defeats Bandito and Best Friends in an open house match. Boy, were those rules confusing.
Ooh, we'll get to that one. Yep.
And then Jon Moxley defeats Kenny Omega with the turn of Don Callis in the steel cage. That's kind of the only thing I want to talk about, because
right.
we hit on a lot of aspects of AEW that we're not into the last couple months, namely the main event storyline. We like the BCC and Elite storyline that's going on. So those two are very much the top two things in AEW to talk about. My opinion mostly hasn't changed on the MJF Pillars storyline at all. Last week saved it a little bit for me with a lot of the video packages of highlighting the talent and everyone involved. I think that was a good pivot from the direction they've been going with this whole can we coexist, I don't trust you, very WWE story. And not into that, but this saved a little bit to it. And then there's the BCC Elite story, and Moxley, Kenny Omega in the steel cage match just elevated it twofold over to the point where I'd rather see whatever they're doing as the main event at Double or Nothing, but tradition I expect will prevail there. But Moxley defeats Kenny Omega. I believe that makes them 2-2 in their series. Just an excellent match. There was a moment where Moxley couldn't get the turnbuckle off during a commercial break, which was hilarious while watching on Fight TV. There was blood. There was a brawl before the cage match started. They got in the cage. They're just going through glass. Lots of callbacks from their Full Gear match that I was at live. So I was dialed into this the entire time. Kenny Omega does a V-trigger through the cage, which was rad as fuck. And Moxley ends up getting the screwdriver, which they've been teasing for weeks and weeks and weeks, that this item is extremely destructive. You get hit with this thing once, you're done, to the point where it's, impaling turnbuckles. And Callis gets in the ring because the cage is blown wide open. Takes the screwdriver from Moxley. Moxley is, I guess, distracted enough for Omega to hit the One-Wing Angel. And just before the 3, Callis stabs him in the face, and Moxley pins his ass. So, huge turn, huge reaction from the crowd. How could you, Don Callis, you snake? This was tremendous. I loved everything about this match. Doing this on TV with an angle like that gives so much more juice to this storyline, even more than it had before. We had Bryan Danielson on commentary going, I don't know what's going on, but I love it. Lots of signs are pointing to Don Callis did this for the Empire and Will Ospreay being the next big thing. More so with Kyle Fletcher challenging Orange Cassidy for the international title. Love where that's going. There's a lot of seeds being planted, and I can't wait for Dynamite next Wednesday.
Yeah. So one of the things that has been something that I've mentioned many times on the podcast is how crowd involvement affects my enjoyment of wrestling, and why it's a huge reason why I fell out of Japanese wrestling during the pandemic and post-pandemic until recently. The stark contrast from the Detroit crowd for this cage match compared to the Fort Lauderdale, Florida crowd the week before. Holy moly. I mean, that episode of Dynamite was only okay anyway. But if the crowd had been hot, it would have enhanced it, and I would have been sold a lot more on the previous. So the fact that this Detroit crowd was insanely hot all night made it a huge, I think, really drove every point that AEW was making home. We saw the re-debut of Thunder Rosa and Miro, and the crowd went ballistic.
Re-debut, sort of.
Oh, reappearances.
It's kind of a tease for Collision.
Sure.
That's really what it was for.
The crowd went wild. The crowd went wild. I popped, and then the crowd popped, and then I popped harder. That's, well,
that's
kind of where I was going with that. Yes, but
the card that was presented for Detroit was indicative of something hot, and therefore the crowd was hot.
Sure.
My reaction from last week compared to the last 2 months was way different. I was way more into the show. I was way more into the matches, way more into the angles. I always say this. I never blame the crowd for a show being bad. I blame the show for not bringing the crowd up.
Yes, 100%. And I didn't mean my comment to imply otherwise. The crowd didn't bring the show down, but my enjoyment of the show, because of what I just said.
Yeah, I mean, a hot crowd will amplify what you're watching, for sure.
Absolutely. The steel cage match, I actually just rewatched it right before we sat down to record. And honestly, my favorite thing was Bryan Danielson selling the betrayal at the end. And he's just like laughing like a child. I mean, just brilliant. That is my favorite thing in wrestling now.
He's so Bryan Danielson.
Yeah. I mean, I want to meme that and share it and put it everywhere.
So let's pivot.
Know what else to say about. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let's pivot. Let's pivot from there to what we're seeing from AEW of their big shows coming up. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So on one hand, we got Forbidden Door 2 in Toronto, which I'm going to. That's the plan right now.
Mm-hmm. That's June?
Yeah, it's June like 24th or something.
Okay.
Then we got All In London, which has got like 66 some odd thousand tickets sold, which
right.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but some industry personnel think that's a bad number. It's the grifting for AEW and their Wembley numbers incredible, and the
sure.
Anticipation of their new TV deal being announced next week. You know, I've seen things from, well, it's in the UK, they should sell it out, to, well, WWE is hot, so therefore all of wrestling is hot, and that's why they're signing a new deal. It's the grift is incredible, and when these people run out of things to say, they talk about how Tony Khan, his attitude in booking is bad. He needs to be replaced by X and Y of people from the past.
Goodness.
In terms, like, my opinion of this AEW number that's in Toronto is phenomenal. The all-in number is a mark on history that very few have reached, especially when you take the aspect of non-WWE shows into account.
Right.
I mean, this show is doing better than Wrestle Kingdom numbers at their peak. They're doing better than WCW numbers at their peak. These are numbers that haven't been seen in close to 30 years at times. When you break it down into the last 50 years, the number's not as big as you think. And so this is a huge success. And one of my main points is, when we look at AEW and what Forbidden Door is and what All In is, they're good representations of what AEW is built up off of as the alternative. Right. Then when I look at this Double or Nothing card, and the lack thereof, if you will.
I was going to say, I noticed you hadn't mentioned the numbers for Double or Nothing.
Well, they're bad. They're bad.
Yeah.
They're not good. Now, I have done some research into what the state of Las Vegas is right now and the economy surrounding it. A lot of that has to do with inflation to an extent of ticket prices and lodgings and hotels, and what Vegas is going through is an anomaly to the rest of America, where at minimum it's 4 times the current inflation, and inflation's already high right now in the first place throughout the country.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Vegas is a 4 times amplification of that. So that's one aspect to look for of why people aren't traveling there, why people can't afford to go there, because a lot of Double or Nothing and All Out are based on travel, not a local audience, if you will. Chicago has a bigger local audience than Las Vegas for sure, just by population standards and ease of access from other major cities in the surrounding area. Chicago has Milwaukee, Detroit, all these other cities that they can, St. Louis even, that people can go to, while Vegas is very much, it's in a valley.
Right.
Uh-oh. Turn that off for a second.
Oops.
Yeah, my Kenny Omega ringtone is going on.
Love it.
So I could break down more economic standards of my very brief research that I did to kind of explain why there's a low number. But when you look at the Vegas Golden Knights in the NHL, they're struggling a little bit, but it's a team that's hot in the region, and they've built in their own demographic in the region over multiple years now. Maybe you can compare that to AEW as a company, and AEW versus the Vegas Golden Knights situation here. Vegas is definitely a bigger draw than AEW. Yeah. I know it's a weird comparison to make, but Vegas, the Golden Knights, haven't had issues selling their tickets. Not really. For there was a brief article that came out that there's a lot more local fan base in Vegas, and that's where AEW is struggling, if I am to compare the two. But I also think if you have a hot card, then you could at least get a good number in there. And this Double or Nothing card, which is a representation of my heat check, I don't think it's very good. We kind of have no idea what's on it other than the 4 Pillars match, and that is not a hot program. That is a bad program, in my opinion.
Yeah, the video packages from this past week's Dynamite definitely helped intensify my interest in match, but yeah, and the match is going to be good. The match might be great. I trust AEW and I trust those wrestlers, but the build. But again, we've said that before. We said that with Forbidden Door last year. There was no build, and then it was one of the best pay-per-views. So, well, I don't know.
The difference between Forbidden Door and Double or Nothing is Forbidden Door was ravaged with injuries, availability of outside talents to get on your shows, etc., etc., etc. A lot of different things and challenges that they had to go for. Do I think, like, never bet against an AEW pay-per-view or a Tony Khan pay-per-view?
Right.
There's maybe been one in its history that we haven't really fully praised, okay? So I'm not really worried about it from that aspect. I'm worried about kind of just the excitement level and getting people hyped and being interested in the matches in the first place. You know, we can all watch matches in a vacuum and go, yeah, good wrestling match. That's all well and good, but it's not going to do what you need it to from our perspective as fans and a business perspective as well.
Right. Yeah. I don't have a lot to add there.
Yeah. So if I throw out these random matches on a card from the 4 Pillars 4-way, I don't know, a BCC versus Elite Trios match?
No. That's going to be Anarchy in the Arena.
Okay. I mean...
Right? I mean, that's what they did last year. They can't do the stadium anymore. So I think Anarchy in the Arena for BCC versus Elite. We did get one more match announced for Double or Nothing, but I don't remember what it was.
It was FTR versus Lethal and Jeff Jarrett.
But yeah, who gives a fucking fuck?
I do like Mark Briscoe and his role throughout this, but that's it.
I like his role throughout this. Having him as the special guest referee also seems very WWE.
It is. It absolutely is.
Without there being I'm pulling this from this is not my idea. I heard this on from one of the content creators that I consume, and I can't remember which one I heard it from. But somebody suggested that he be the special referee, but instead of just announcing it, because that would be very WWE, they suggested, Aubrey Edwards has kind of been Jeff Jarrett's downfall in every single match. So they're like, what if the stipulation is Aubrey can't be the ref for the match? And then they take out the other refs somehow, like get them uninvolved. And they're like, okay, who's left? Let's make it Mark Briscoe.
So this is probably a good time to bring up that I think he's from not Fight Game Media, but Fightful, Will Washington.
Yes, Fightful was his last position.
Yeah, that was his last position.
He was hired.
He's been hired as part of creative in a big role to help out Tony Khan in mostly the storylines and booking of them. And I'm very curious. I'm very curious to see what and how it's going to play out in the next coming weeks. And I like it. I like the move. It's a good move to have an outside mind that's familiar with wrestling, and he's not in the weeds with the olds,
the business. Yeah,
the business.
I'm so glad you brought this up. I've only consumed. Apparently, Will Washington has been podcasting for something like 18 years. which seems unbelievable, but he is, I think, around 35 years old. So he started podcasting at around 17, 18 years old. And I only found him recently through Fightful. He started a little over a year ago on Fightful, and that's how I started consuming his content. He started at Grapsody with Righteous Reg and Phil Lindsay, which has been a Saturday morning podcast. Different perspective than I've ever consumed ever. So I loved that. And Phil and Reg are still going on, and I highly recommend that podcast for all our listeners. But then he came up with some other stuff. He did a Dynamite reaction podcast, and he's been doing stuff with Denise Salcedo, and he's been doing a couple after shows and whatever else. And then it also turns out he's from my town in Colorado.
Yes, he's a big Denver Nuggets fan.
Yeah, he's a big Nuggets fan. And I've never seen, I haven't been to a ton of there's only been 2 big AEW shows in the Denver area. Next one's coming up in Colorado Springs in a couple of weeks, but I missed one. And at the first one, I didn't know who he was. So it wasn't until I was I was in Chicago for All Out this past summer, 2022. I ran into him at one of the GCW shows. And I was like, yeah, I'm so glad to meet you. I'm from Aurora. And he's like, Aurora, Illinois? I was like, no, Aurora, Colorado. I just haven't run into you. And he's like, shut the fuck up. So since then, I've run into him a couple of times at Lucha Libre and Laughs, which has been great. So I just love that he's like my local my local guy. But he is so insightful. He has an encyclopedic knowledge of the business. I mean, he can pull up dates out of nowhere, and like he knows every pay-per-view from. He says he's watched every episode.
Yeah, what does that mind and way to bring things up sound like? It sounds like a lot like Tony Khan.
Yeah, it's bonkers. And he, from what I understand, he is reporting directly to Tony Khan.
Yes.
He's going to be largely responsible for continuity in this throughout the storylines, which I love. And like you said, he hasn't been, even though he's been talking about the business for damn near 2 decades, he hasn't been directly involved. He is, Swerve Strickland is his first cousin, by the way.
I didn't know
aside from that,
okay, all right. So that's kind of his.
But aside from that, I'm sure that was something to do with making the connection. But I'm sure Tony already knew who he was. Sure. He was on the radar, knows how valuable his wrestling mind is. And when I heard, he announced on his Fightful podcasts that he was stepping away from Fightful. He was leaving Fightful. My first thought was, well, he got hired by AEW. Playing channels out there, like amateur to professional channels. So unless he was going to WWE, I was like, he got hired by something big. Unless he got like Sports Illustrated or something. That's like the only other thing I could have thought of. So I'm hyped for him. I'm hyped for what it means for AEW. A lot of the Twitter folks in its first couple weeks have been, jokingly saying like, "Oh, that was Will's fault," or when like the audio was bad, or these people came back and this episode was great, so that's all because of Will. Like some of it, obviously, it's tongue in cheek to support him. Some of it, I think, is real. I do think the Will Washington effect will become more clear as he's involved in more weeks of AEW.
Well, okay. Let's use that to transition into New Japan now. What do you say?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. Let's do some of this. Okay, so New Japan. Now, full disclosure here, neither of us have gotten the time to watch the Best of the Super Juniors. The first couple days have happened. I've heard really good things about the opening night, and in typical kind of Japanese booking fashion, a lot of upsets in the first round, big packed crowd at Corkin Hall. Mike Bailey apparently really impressed. Leo Rush has impressed. So you like to hear those things. Even Kevin Knight and Dan Maloney have impressed in their own ways.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll at least get around to watching that opening night eventually. Haven't heard as many good, exciting things about the second night. But,
okay,
it's a long tournament. We got a lot to watch. I'm looking forward to that. But the real news is coming out of Wrestling Dontaku, which we both have watched.
Yes, we have.
Huge show. A lot of young lions in the openers. Basic 8-man tags there. And then we got, Intergalactic Jet Setters, Kevin Knight and Kushida, and Shota Umino defeating United Empire, Hanare, Akira, and TJP. We got Just Five Guys, Dookie Taichi Kanemaru defeating the LIJ team of Bushi, Shingo, and Naito. And then we get to the title matches, and here they were. Hikuleo defeats Kenta, New Japan Strong Openweight Champion crowned here. Not a good match. I thought this was pretty trash.
Yeah, I had issues with this match, and I didn't realize until I pulled up Cage Match just now, so I could follow along the card with you.
Mm-hmm.
That I wasn't the only one who had issues with this match. It was
5-3-7. No, 5-3-4 on Cage Match. No, even worse.
Yeah.
4-3-5 on Cage Match currently. I was like, oh, that's a low rating. That's got to be the match. No, that was one of the 8-man tags before it. I will mention that. So the Fukuoka Convention Center had a stipulation still installed for restrictions. So it was sold out at $44.89. And I've heard some people comment that that's not a good number and indicative of New Japan not back yet. And I'm arguing against that because of how fast this show sold out to that number. And I think that's indicative that they could have got, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 more people in this building, which would have been a better idea of New Japan being back. But that's something we can speculate. I'm on the side of, because they sold out so fast, that the company is gaining momentum back. It's fire. They got a new champion and a lot of new talent that's being pushed, which is garnering a lot of interest. And I really think the main event of Sonata and Hiromu was a good drawing factor. As soon as Hiromu was announced, we saw a spike in interest in Google Trends, and I believe even before Hiromu was announced as the champion, they were or as the challenger, that Sonata simply winning the title over Okada and him being the new guy going into Dontaku moved a lot of tickets for interest. So I'm definitely on the buying New Japan and Sonata stock in that regard. Now overall, go on.
Oh, I was just going to take back maybe what I said on the last podcast about Sonata's ability to sell tickets and / carry company and carry the title. Based on that alone and based on the interest in this match and the quality of that main event match.
Yeah, so we'll get there, but that's what I wanted to get out of the way business wise.
Sure.
Then we got Zack Sabre Jr. against Jeff Cobb. They did go to a 15-minute draw. I think this was well done. Much more indicative of the type of match I was kind of looking forward to. Now, this is every single defense now is within that 15-minute draw, and they finally got to that point.
Right.
Would it have meant more if they didn't do that with every other match? I think so.
Probably. I didn't watch the preliminary matches that went to a time limit draw. So You mean that his previous matches?
Right, his previous matches. They all went to like 14,
Yeah, that's right.
39,
That's right.
that kind of stuff.
That's right. That's right. Maybe. Or maybe the story is he's good, but not everyone, but there are people who can equal him and can beat him.
Yeah. I did like the post-match idea of Zach was not satisfied with the results and they're going to do an immediate rematch.
Yes. Yes.
So that saved a little bit for me. Okay. Could you argue this next one was match of the night? That is the Okada, Ishii, Tanahashi trios match against the used to be champions, Despy, Minoru Suzuki, and Ren Narita.
This was so fun.
This ruled.
I mean, they're all your favorites, right? Like if this is all-star match, all-star. I mean, the Despy Ishii spots, man, I was like glued, like sitting on the edge of my seat for the time that they were in the ring together. I didn't even realize that was something I wanted to see, and I loved it.
Well, they had their New Japan Cup match last year, which was really good.
Okay.
And
I don't remember that.
Yeah, they kind of continued where they left off there. What was most striking to me was Okada against these young boys now going on.
Yes.
And Okada telling Ren Narita to fuck off, young boy, really popped me in the post-match. Cool. Yeah, incredible ending sequence. This is such a great spot for like Tanahashi and Ishii kind of winding down at the end of their careers. And boy, it's like it's showing more and more as the months and years go by of like the state of these guys' physicality. And if this is like a place for Okada to kind of be with those two guys and being the trios champions, I think that's a great step in the right direction for where they're going to go for the time being.
I love it. I think I've said it before too, how much I love Angry Okada.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been missing since Kenny, really. Like Kenny kind of took the angry out of Okada after some point. And yeah, I love this version of Okada. I think you're absolutely right. Them as a trio, man. Yeah, I love it.
I'm looking forward to what more that they can do with this trio, and Ishii not wanting anything to do with Tanahashi kind of amuses me as well.
Yes. They kind of made up at the end of the match, but he did get pissed. He got pissed.
David Finlay defeats Tama Tonga, new openweight champion. 25 minutes.
Too long. It was way too long.
I hesitate to call the match good, but I was invested. And a lot of that has to do with this David Finlay again.
Yes.
A lot of these guys at the top of the card, I don't think they're capable of getting to the level the last generation did, but with good booking and investment, I can still get behind a lot of the matches. Knowing that they're not going to do fucking 4.5 star plus type deals, if they can get to that 3.75, 4.25 like area, that's more than acceptable to me. And that's what this match kind of represented. Was I was invested, I was involved, I was biting on the drama in the match and the physicality that David Finlay brings, and Tama was at his best here. I did, like you said, it did go a little bit too long. They're gonna need a lot of practice and experience to go that long, especially in the New Japan environment and puro environment in general. But I really liked Tama Tonga getting stretchered out afterwards. Apparently his contract is up. He's done. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But Finlay, regardless, this is a big first step in his push, and I think this was the right decision.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the decision to have him win. Drama, absolutely. An investment for me, most of the match I was invested. I didn't get bored. That's not the right word. But I did lose interest at some point, just because I felt like it was going on a little long. But the final, however many minutes, definitely sucked me back in with the drama of everything going on in the ring. I mean, that's what New Japan does so well, is the in-ring storytelling, and that definitely happened here. And I can't wait to see what happens with David Finlay next.
Well, we got that answer in the post-match with a masked figure going after him, and El Phantasmo is here, big babyface reaction. The David Finlay Bullet Club, don't interact with fans, be assholes, is a good fresh step for the club. And Finlay look, the booking of David Finlay, I think, has been handled pretty phenomenally, because I was very hesitant if they were going to push him straight to the top. Because when you position a guy at his level for so long, it's gonna take something to work for a while to bring him up to the level you want to be, and him shillelaghing Jay White on his way out, and then doing well in the New Japan Cup and getting some key wins. Not winning, I think, was an even better decision, because that more or less established him as taking the next step. And since the openweight title is kind of the third place title in New Japan under the US title and the heavyweight title, that's a good middle ground step to get him further to the top. So he can have an openweight title run, do well, and defeat a lot of the kind of upper mid-carders and other people you want to push to that level, like a Ren Narita, for example. Throw that name out there.
Sure.
And then, if he proves himself to us as fans that he's capable of going to a new level, a main event level, then you can get him to the US title and heavyweight. That'll take time. Who knows if he'll get there, but this is a good first step. Or I guess it would be the third step, if you will. He had the big angle, he had the big New Japan Cup, and now he has this. So let's see where he does from there. I am buying the David Finlay stock, is what I'm saying.
Yep, I'm with you. ELP as a first opponent for that title, I love it.
Would you be opposed to ELP and David Finlay going to like a double DQ finish or something crazy?
I guess it would depend on the circumstances, but no, I'm not opposed to it.
Or David Finlay continuing to duck ELP, or getting his good. I mean, that feels like a match for ready for Dominion, and I could see it going either way.
Sure, yeah.
I could also see David Finlay just like a ref gets knocked down or something, or there's a distraction from someone in Bullet Club, and he gets the shillelagh and just pummels ELP in the face with it and beats him. I could totally see something like that, and it's a very MJF finish. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's what heels do, right? So, yeah.
But they haven't been booking David Finlay like that, which is exciting, because then when he finally does it, you go, hey, wait a minute.
Right. Right. This did feel very, very dark, though. Like the win here was very dark. Not that he cheated to win or anything like that, but this did feel like the start of something in that direction.
Yeah, the more he leans into this Bullet Club side and vicious side, the more I could see him using a weapon as kind of a finisher. I actually think that's a good direction for him, because now they've already set him up as someone who can win on his own, but if he wants to reach the next level, he's going to have to cheat. Maybe that's something we'll have to see play out. I could see a lot of people being against that idea because they like David Finlay in his persona currently, but who knows? Main event. Sonata defeats Hiromu, 27.5 minutes, 4.5 stars in the Observer, has an 8.31 on the Cage of Match. I was into this. Hiromu's incredible this year. He's got a male wrestler of the year candidacy going for him. It took a little while for Sanada, I think, to get going, but I would say the second half of this match was very indicative of good drama with Sanada. I think he leaned into the whole skull end too much, but that was also the story leading up to it on the road to Dontaku. Sanada was purposely using the skull end moonsault combo on the tour. Commentary really put that over as well. And he was deliberately not using what does he call it? The dead end, his little twisting DDT deal.
Oh yes,
I forget the exact.
Is that what
name.
it's called? I know what move you're talking about.
Yeah.
But also commentary mentioned, because I haven't been watching a ton of New Japan stuff, but he hasn't been using his Paradise Lock. He used it maybe in one match leading up to this too, because it was kind of a silly move, right? The Paradise Lock is silly.
It's not indicative of like main event.
Right. He didn't use it here. That's the right thing. This is a more serious Sanada. He's the world champ. He's not going to do those childish things.
Yeah, let me see if Cage Match has his finisher name on here.
Maybe the Paradise Lock will eventually be his downfall. He'll use it when he shouldn't. Skull end, Paradise Lock, rounding body press, tiger suplex, springboard drop kick, TKO.
Nah, he doesn't
are
have
his signature moves.
What is his? I can't remember what his new Deadfall? I think it's Deadfall, actually. That sounds right. We'll just go with that.
Yes, Deadfall DDT. Deadfall DDT. That is correct.
Okay.
Anyway, this was great. I love Takahashi too, and you've heard me gush about how much I love him and how Takahashi was one of the wrestlers that sold me on New Japan when I first started watching. So it's great to see these guys together. But what?
Oh, just cracking the beer and my cat kind of woke up.
Oh. Oh, hi, Sid.
he's very much bothered by the can of beer being opened.
Yeah. My dog doesn't like loud noises either. Did you see her get up and wander around for a little bit?
I did.
I lost my train of thought.
I'll bring it back.
Going back. Okay.
The finish of this match I thought was phenomenal, because if there's one thing New Japan and Puro does well is a hot finishing stretch. Nothing.
All the near falls.
Nothing tends to end flat. It's all very dramatic. I love kicking out of big finishers when you've never seen it happen before. Hiromu hitting both versions of the time bomb and Sanada getting out. What does that mean for Sanada and his future? Who knows? But I loved the ending stretch of once that time bomb 2 was kicked out. That was we were done with Hiromu unless he busted out some crazy move, and it was that was his downfall, because then Sanada got in the little cold skull dragon sleeper, hit him with a moonsault. Hiromu did kick out of that. Sanada couldn't believe it, and it was a continuing trying to set up the whole deadfall and Hiromu getting out. And I hope I have my facts straight here, but I believe Sanada hit another moonsault and Hiromu, or it was a German suplex or something wild.
He hit two moonsault. He hit one and then went up for a second one, and Hiromu got his knees up.
Well, that was earlier.
This is towards the end.
I know, but it was earlier in the end.
Oh, okay, gotcha. You're talking about the last 90 seconds.
There was this last sequence where Sanada hits some big move on him that I can't remember, and Hiromu immediately gets up, big fighting spirit, and then out of nowhere you see from the side of the camera, Sanada hits him with the most awesome Shining Wizard you've ever seen, where Hiromu goes ass over tea kettle. Even commentary goes, Hiromu kicked out of his boots or something, just his head's off.
Yes.
And then Sanada just picks his broke ass up and DDTs him for the win. I'm like, what a great finish. I love that so much. That's what, Like that immediately brought me to like 4.25 type area. 3 out of 3 recommendation. You have to watch this. I never want to see another broken motherfucking Keiji Muto Shining Wizard ever again for the rest of my life. That Sonata Shining Wizard was everything I imagined that move being. Just going 10 feet in the air, like knee and shin in the face and neck, and the guy going on his head on the way down, and then you can just hit whatever you want on the guy. No posing, no bullshit, gorgeous. Just head taken off, and then you hit your move and take him home, make him look at the lights. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I bid on every single near fall at the end of this match. Like, I didn't really think Sonata was going to lose his first defense. But some of those kickouts were so close to 3. I mean, 2.99999, like multiple 2.99 kickouts. Yeah, everything about that ending was dramatic and exciting. I loved it.
Yeah, so we're on the road.
We know what's. I was going to say we know what's next for Sonata too. It seems.
Oh yeah, so he does
post match.
Yeah, so he does the whole post match thing. Lights go out. He's got his phones out. The little I forget what he calls it, but for the sake of making comedy, it's the fireflies out there. And then right. Just he's about to make another announcement of some kind. Music hits, and we've seen these vignettes of like this dark red and black fire and wolf or whatever it is, and this like hooded figure comes out, and he's just got this big evil like white smile, and it's Yota Tsuji, and the crowd goes, "What the fuck?" I go, "Wow, okay," because I watched this match twice, once at work while distracted, and I see like out of the corner of my eye, like Yota Tsuji. The hell is he doing here? Last time I saw him, he was on like Rev Pro or Impact or some shit. And he's got this cool ass cape and gear. He gets in the ring. He fucking takes out the 5 guys, overpriced burger included, and then just whoops Sonata, stands over him, with the title, and then does the LIJ symbol. And the crowd goes, "Whoa!" And then. My God, the balls on this company. Here we are on the last podcast thinking, I'm trying to think outside the box, and Shingo's going to get the Dominion match. Everyone's like, Naito this, Naito that. That's the easy choice. Well, holy hell, New Japan's booking Yota Tsuji, fresh from excursion, into the main event of their second biggest show of the year. This is like... I mean, it reminds me of Okada. It's going to remind a lot of people of Okada. And because of that, there's a lot of interest and speculation that Yota Tsuji has a fucking chance at this thing. And because of Sonata and who he is and the champion he is, you can buy it. And that's the value in Sonata as the champion, because it's Sonata. You can see him kind of losing it at any point in time to anybody. He's not crazy Okada. He's not Naito. He's not Ibushi. Do you think Yota Tsuji has a shot?
Okay, so I don't know, and I was hoping you would shed some light on Yota Tsuji for me, which you have done a little bit, because I had to Google him when I saw him show up. I loved his presentation. I thought it was badass as fuck. And I can't wait to see these guys match up, because it's just so much handsome. But I've never seen Yota Tsuji wrestle that I can recall. Maybe as a young lion before excursion, but it's not a name I remember. And obviously he wasn't presented like this previously in New Japan.
No.
So but I think you're absolutely right about value of Sonata as champion, because you could put someone like this that I've never heard of, it's like straight up into the title picture. I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. They're presenting him like he's a big deal, so I believe he's a big deal. So yeah, I totally believe he could be Sonata.
So this is an instance where I do agree with... I have my gripes with the New Japan Young Lion system. I think it takes too long. Been over this story many times.
Mm-hmm.
The advantage to how they book their Young Lions is they're only in openers. They're considered rookies and training and this and that. And before they even sniff success on the main roster, if you will, they go away and you forget about them. And depending on how they do, or the company's belief in them, or they see how they do abroad, whether it's, I guess the current examples would be Shota Umino in the UK, Yuya Uemura in his various ventures, whether that's in Impact Wrestling and the like, or even the Great Okan in the UK. When they come back and where they're slotted in that return, you get a pretty damn good idea of where they currently stand and the belief the company has in that guy. So we've seen Master Wato come back, and he's immediately in like geek undercard junior territory. Okay, you didn't really believe in much of him in the first place. That's okay. You got Ren Narita coming back from LA, and he's kind of mini Shibata, and he's still kind of working his way up into gaining veterans' respects, namely Okada on this very show. You got, who would be another? Well, you get the idea. So to see Yota Tsuji come back, much in the same vein as Okada, that's some good fucking indication that this could be a fucking guy. And I like, this only works because New Japan has this history of doing this. And if you're a new fan and you've been looking at the last 5 years going, okay, or at least the last 3 years, that'd probably be a better year indication of like, when are we gonna like get this next generation over? And this in-between period of Evil and now Sonata and the pandemic, this could be a huge indicator of what we're going to look at for New Japan going into the G1, going into the next year, and who the hell knows how Wrestle Kingdom's going to play out from here on out, because I got no idea, and that's very exciting to me.
I love it. Is there anything you can tell me about Yota Tsuji's wrestling style?
Well,
I mean, obviously he was trained with the New Japan Dojo, but...
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. He's got good size. He's got good power. He's going to have those. He's going to have those moves. But in terms of like seeing him recently, I can't say much, and that's what's exciting.
Okay, cool. I love it. I'm excited. He's new to me, so bring it on.
He's new to everybody, and he's going to be in the main event of Dominion, going for the IWGP title. Let's go.
Love it. Love it.
So I'm going to play some music, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's going on in the world of Dragongate. How about that?
Awesome. I'm here for it.
It's KT time! Yeah! It's time to go to what time is it? It's time to go crazy! Yeah!
Okay, so Dragongate had one of their big 5 shows of the year in Nagoya, Aichi Gym. 2,700 people in this place, which actually would eclipse their biggest attendance of 2022. So there's a success there for Dragongate and their booking, at least in to that extent. Okay, you know, I've been really down on this company for the last, I would say, year and a half now, which is kind of the opposite of where I stood during the pandemic with this company pushing a lot of young guys, a lot of young talent. The company's clearly struggling with money, where there's veteran talent leaving and going freelance, or just straight up changing companies. Naruki Doi is less than making appearances. You had the retirement of Yoshino and Kness. Eita is, for all intents and purposes, now a Noah guy. They've lost main event talent. So now is the time for them to make main event talent. I've been very vocal over their excursions and getting guys abroad and their amount of being abroad. And this is going to sound like the complete opposite of New Japan, but where Dragongate lacks is the, I guess, voice of New Japan, because a lot of their guys struggle to get bookings abroad. Dragongate just doesn't have that voice. So with SB Kento and Fujiwara and company, they because that lack of voice, they don't get the reps abroad that they need. So what's the point of being away is kind of the shtick there. Wouldn't they be more value within your company and you building them up? Or do you not want them to take spots on the card? I don't know. But this Dead or Alive show kind of indicates to me a number of different things that maybe Dragon Gate fans that are more in tune or more obsessed with the company than myself right now might have a different opinion. But when it comes to SB Kento, Fujiwara, Dragon Dia, Funky Jackie Kamei, and Jason Lee, these are your guys to me that they've established as your Bravegate division, the Dragon Kid division, if you will. I think Dragon Gate has slotted those guys incorrectly because they're smaller than whom they have at the top, because the theme coming out of this show was they've established a new Big Six. So the previous generation of the Big Six was like Shima, Shingo, Yoshino, and company, okay? So they're getting the new talent over as a Big Six, a big marketing ploy that I agree they need to do, but it's the names there that kind of strike me. The names involved in this new Big Six is Madoka Kakuta, Shun Skywalker, who was in your main event, Ben K, who's won the title already, Yuki Yoshioka, who's won the title already, Kota Minoura, who hasn't won the title, but he's challenged a few times. I think that's 5 I named. And Strong Machine J, who was just in that last title defense that I wasn't really crazy about. Because Strong Machine J just doesn't have the history of, like, even singles matches, mind you. Meanwhile, Yamato is kind of left in the dirt, even though he's probably one of the most winniest guys of all. Yeah, winniest, whatever. He's 41, so, he's up there in age, but he's still got a lot left in the tank. You have KZ, who is one of my favorites. He's kind of a guy I've really latched onto as a Dragon Gate fan. And he was... Where was he on this card? He was in the Triangle Gate match with Big Boss Shimizu and Strong Machine J. KZ's only 36. He's got a lot of left in the tank. So, and there's some kayfabe things going on here where KZ's on Twitter and stuff saying, where the hell am I in that Big Six situation? That's bullshit. If they have a story around that, I'm all for it. But as I did 2 years ago at Kobe World, I poured out one for KZ because it's never going to be KZ time. Not falling for it because they kind of broke me as a fan. Could they do something more with that? I'm sure they could. I just don't have the confidence when he's seemingly an afterthought in this company's future. If that's by design, then they've definitely fooled me and they've worked me. And congratulations.
You deserve it.
Right. I deserve it, and that's fine.
No, not you. Like, congratulations to the company. Like, they've worked you. They deserve it.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
good job.
Yeah, in that sense. Yeah, great.
Not you deserve to be worked.
Like, there's a lot of things I'm really on the fence about Dragon Gate. And Dead or Alive kept me on that fence for a while. And it's not... like, the new house style is definitely something to get used to when I've been watching Dragon Gate for as long as I've been watching New Japan, essentially. It was just harder to get a hold of, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Big Boss Shimizu, I've kind of come to terms that they're just not going to push this guy as something more than a comedy act. He's stuck. It would just take some tremendous pivot in booking of this guy to get him over other than where he's at. But I look up and down this Dead or Alive card, and we got outsiders winning the Twin Gates. We got heel groups winning Triangle Gates. We got we still got sort of this weird veteran vibe throughout the show. And there's still just something missing that I can't put my finger on. And I think it has a lot to do with these guys just aren't over yet. And there's not enough energy to their matches. It's still very much like they're on one of their biggest 5 shows of the year, and I'm watching the Twin Gate and the Triangle Gate match. Those are your tag and trios titles.
Mm-hmm.
And they just lack complete effort of energy, especially in the beginning halves of their match. And it's not just, they're feeling each other out kind of stuff. It's still a lot of guys just walking around and not really engaging anything.
Well, that's depressing. Like, multi-man wrestling is my favorite wrestling, so...
Right, and I watched the Bravegate match, and it was a little short. It was under 12 minutes. I wish it would have went longer, and they could have cooked more and gotten more. So in that sense, it was a little disappointing, but what they were doing was fast and exciting. Jason Lee and Dragon Dia. Like, when I think of Dragongate, and I think of this new generation, I think of that. I think of a lot of, 20-year-olds really going balls to the wall and running fast. Or they build up to running fast, and they're not doing that. So it's very strange to me, and it's not what I want to see. Is there enough talent there that in time they could develop and grow into these things? Sure, because a lot of these young guys haven't even performed in front of crowds to the extent that they're used to.
Sure,
because so much of this roster debuted in the last few years. I would say half this roster is new.
Wow, yeah.
But on the flip side, the same thing could be said about Stardom and a lot of their roster. Like, say what you will, but a lot of their roster is debuted in the last 3 to 4 years. Not much, that's essentially all of COVID. And they've had to adapt and differentiate themselves from a lot of the wrestling world and develop their own styles. And let's face it, Joshi Wrestling has been in the shitter for the last 25 years. So there's no audience, and they have to grow something from scratch. Dragongate, on the other hand, has had an audience of some kind for the past 20 years. There's advantages and disadvantages to both sides. All right, so you've heard me talk. What about the matches? Heard me go on this diatribe about Dragongate. I said Jason Lee Dragon Dia was good. I went 2 out of 3 on that one. I say go out of your way to watch that. I enjoyed that. There was a moment where Mochizuki Jr. in an 8-man tag near the opener got injured, so fingers crossed for that guy. Naruki Doi and Ultimo Dragon defeated Z-Brets. That's Diamante and Kyo. Are they building to an Ultimo Dragon Diamante match at this point? I don't even know at this point. It's probably going to take place in Mexico. Who cares? Triangle Gate match was Benkei, BB Hulk, Kota Minoura of Gold Class defeating Natural Vibes, Shimizu, KZ, and Strong Machine J, 2 people named as part of the Big Six. I think this match was fine, but it failed to live up to that energy that I was talking about. Heel team wins, and or actually 3 guys, because Benkei is part of that group. 13 minutes. That's followed by Dragon Kid and Noah's Naomichi Marufuji defeating Yamato and Yuki Yoshioka, seeing Yoshioka get pinned by the veteran, which I found interesting. So a former champion. If that sets up Marufuji for a Dreamgate match, I'm not really excited for that, but I guess that's something. They did a little comedy match afterwards with Ishikawa. And the Twin Gate match was the semi-main event. That was Noah's Keno and freelancer Shuji Kondo, guy who doesn't take falls. I'm kind of over Shuji Kondo. If you're not going to push this guy as something of a threat, then, well, that's probably the wrong phrase. But you know what? I don't have the right words to describe how I feel about Shuji Kondo, so I'll just kind of gloss over that.
Fair.
This was against Kaien Ishin. So Ishinahashi now has gained a little weight. He looks a little pudgy, but also in shape. He's got facial hair, so he's straight up grimy guy, which is good for his role. It was a lot of the 2 vet guys beating him up and Kai putting it felt like Kai was putting in half effort. It was a lot of heels would stand around, get kicked or lariated by Keno and Kondo. And it went like 11 minutes. It was so short and slow paced. I didn't like this match very much. And that was your semi-main event. But the main event is the thing everyone's talking about. It has an 8.36 on Cage Match, 32 votes. It's Shun Skywalker defending the title against Madoka Kikuta. So I'm going to give you the whole story, Ricky.
I'm listening.
Okay?
I am listening.
Because that's what this entire match was. It was about the story. And Dragongate is all about stories a lot of the times. Faction warfare, characters coming into play, all kinds of things. So 2 years ago, Shun Skywalker, big babyface, came back, won the title. He's against a heel Madoka Kikuta, then known as Hip Hop Kikuta. He's like 20 years old, heel. Like 2 minutes in the match, Shun gives him a drop toe hold, very basic, and he blows out his shoulder. Madoka Kikuta cannot continue. It's like a devastating thing. Cut to a year later at Dead or Alive. So you see the theme here.
Mm-hmm.
He returns. And he ends up joining the big babyface group called Decourage with Yuki Yoshioka and Dragon Dia. And he comes to his own there, and he builds himself back up. And the crowd's getting behind the guy. The guy's big, he's tall, especially compared to the Dragon Gate roster. He's got good size and power to him. I just think he looks like a weird dork.
Okay.
He's got a big fat ass, so maybe you'd like him, Ricky, actually.
Not so much of a butt person. But...
Oh, I think you'd be a butt person when you see this guy. So he's back from a shoulder injury, builds himself up, and during this time, Shun Skywalker has gone crazy. He's nuts. He's insane. You've heard me talk about how I don't like his matches. He's a crazy guy that has this weird cackle, and he walks around and saunters and laughs some more. His matches are slow, uninteresting, and then they do the whole heel shtick pile of chairs and stuff. I don't like him. The first, I would say, 17 minutes of this match was a lot of that with I think, an overemphasis on the arm of Kikuta. Because they went back to the drop toe hold. He laughs at the guy. He stays down on the ground a little too long, so the crowd's kind of worried. And I'm like, okay. I immediately just go, okay, so this is what they're going to tell. They're going to go back to the arm, which I think on the tours, they should have just kept telling that story that maybe his arm isn't 100% healed, rather than in this one match, they just go to it. Maybe I'm being a little too harsh in my critique. Look, I get the story that they went with. His shoulder blew out 2 years ago. Shun works the arm, and Kikuta comes back and fires back and fights back, eventually with the arm, and that's how he puts him away with 3 big rolling lariats and pins him. Okay, new champion, young guy, 23 years old, fastest to the Dream Gate. There's, I think, the youngest at this point as well. So there's a lot of positives, okay, to Kikuta winning the title, especially over Shun Skywalker and his heel run, which I've absolutely not liked. Okay? So a fresh champion without this goofy, like, I keep calling him Venom. Shun Skywalker. He dresses like Venom. He acts like Venom. It wouldn't shock me if he came out and goes, oh yeah, he based his whole persona off Venom. But the match... I'd be so curious if you watch this match, knowing the whole story, if you either felt the same or you just go, wow, I was super into it because of the storytelling. Because from my feeling, Dragongate, from what I've seen and heard, Dragongate fans are really into this. And I just don't understand why I'm not. When I get the story, I get the character work. I think a lot of the work in the match was good, but I was never invested. I was never interested. And honestly, I think Madoka Kikuta's moves are kind of lame.
Oh.
he's still very one-dimensional in a lot of his moves, and that's kind of the... I got a similar feeling with Yuki Yoshioka, but his matches peaked higher. I just haven't got that with Kakuta. It's a very strange place to be, I will admit. So, what's next for Dragon Gate? They're not doing King of Gate before Kobe World. They got about 2 months before Kobe World. That's their biggest show of the year. I like the move of not having King of Gate, because then they can really book anybody into the big main event spot. Much like how New Japan has just rolled the ball with Yota Tsuji. So I am interested in where Dragon Gate's going, but I still need to see this talent kind of break out of their shell a lot more. I'm like waiting for that moment where they all just grab something and fully get with like what is being a wrestler to an audience.
Gotcha.
Yeah. That's Dragon Gate. That's my thoughts.
Yeah. All right. I don't have anything to add, but
well, you listen to me talk long enough, so.
Well, yeah, I'm fascinated about your feelings on Shun Skywalker, because a little that I've seen of him, I watched him in Black Label Pro before they switched off IWTV, and now they're on Fight, which I don't pay for. I enjoyed him, but obviously it's probably a different level of opponent. So
yeah, I don't think the indies were a good indication of what is a Shun Skywalker at this point in time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not probably the same Shun Skywalker that you're seeing.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that next step to be taken with this company. I feel like they're on the verge of doing something good again, but right now is not it. Not yet. Because when it's not New Japan time, I'm all in the Dragon Gate time.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
So, as for like things like CMLL and All Japan and all these other companies, haven't had the time. To me, they're not doing much of interest for me personally, but I'm still keeping an eye on them to see if something kind of breaks out here and there.
Okay.
Yep.
I hear you.
And that's it, Ricky. That's a podcast for you and I.
Yeah. Man, we did it.
We did it. I will see you next time.
Peace.
強くなれる理由を知った僕を連れて進め
Hey, all right, everybody. Golden Week is in the books, and boy, do we got Joshi wrestling to talk about. Not just TJPW and Stardom today. We're kind of going across the indies. Going over their quote-unquote biggest shows and biggest matches they could put on. And much like the theme of what we're seeing in New Japan and All Japan and the like, and Dragon Gate especially, it's young talent going over, which you love to see. So first off, by that music, we're going to go into Miyuki Takase, but I do have to say that this will be it for the podcast for this episode, is the Joshi section. Taking a break from the retro for now. I believe it will be back next time. Just short on time here. But regardless, so you'll just have to be a little bit more patient for Starcade 99 and the All Japan women. But it was a lot of me catching up on Stardom house shows, two big Stardom shows. TJPW had a Corkin Hall. Diana had a Corkin Hall. Marvelous had a Corkin Hall. Gato Move was at Shinjuku Face, because that's about all they can draw. But let's begin with Gato Move. They had an event that was a crossover with Deadlock Pro. And over the last year, you know, we've seen Takase and Emi Sakura kind of kick it up in the Carolina. having some singles matches. Miyu Yamashita hanging out there. Maya Yukihi made an appearance. Well, they did a 2-day crossover event at Shinjuku Face. Neither show capped 300, so it's not making the list. Doesn't make the cut, which is kind of an indicator of, I guess, the people involved and just what Gato Move is truly capable of drawing with the talent. But regardless of the facts and opinions surrounding that matter, few matches or at least a couple in my mind is worth checking out. And that's the Mei Suruga Arisa Endo match, which was 9 minutes. That was a nice little singles there. And the main event, which was Emi Sakura defending the DPW title against Miyuki Takase in just under 19 minutes. It began a little shtick heavy, a little house show heavy that Takase has leaned into more and more on her freelance run. But we got full AEW Emi Sakura here with hard chops, and that's right up Miyuki Takase's strong singles match alley, where they just met each other in the ring and did a lot of that. I could have done without a lot of the goofiness outside. Once they got to business inside those ropes, that's where I really started to enjoy the match. And I ended up going full 3 just at kind of 4 stars range there because of the physicality and how they brought it. And the bigger point, I think, to mention is why do we continue have to wait so long for Miyuki Takase matches like this? It's probably a number of different answers between her availability and probably easier to get bookings in under and mid cards and tags and the like. But ultimately, it goes into a lot of my examples of the indie scene not running enough because they're broke and not taking advantage of trying to push new talent and heating up talent. It's a lot of random booking, indie booking, if you will, without much for storytelling, if any at all, and not properly utilizing a lot of the talent. It's still so much reliant on the past generation, and we saw at least signs of hope, I guess, over Golden Week, where all of these companies are trying to take advantage of the big holiday and getting as many people as they can to probably their biggest show, maybe of the year. But yeah, full 3 on Takase Emi Sakura. Really enjoyed it. Emi did retain, and a big singles match for Takase. I think it's only her second one since the Catch the Wave final that she just happenstanced into against Suzu Suzuki. We move on to Marvelous, which had their Corkin Hall. They don't announce their attendance much like Sendai. That's very much off the radar for a lot of people, but this was the big Chikayo Nagashima defense against Mio Momino. Just under that was Takumi Iroha defeating Unagi Sayaka, which was a nice little physical match, but more overshadowed by the big Mayumi Ozaki and Ozaki-gun invasion, I guess, and beating Iroha to a bloody pulp. And that really took away a lot of the headlines from this Marvelous show, and it really looks like that's going to be the focus of the promotion, while Mio Momino, Maria, and company go abroad to the Queen of the Indies, in which Mio Momino and what's-her-face? Masha Slamovich had a very good singles match, good solid 2 out of 3 action there. But Ozaki and stinking up the joint, Ozaki-gun aside, this Mio Momino Chikayo match was very good. You could definitely argue it's the best non-Stardom women's match this year. I still wouldn't put it above Charlotte Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania, if I'm going to be honest, but this had a lot to like about it. I did think Chikayo leaned too much into the whole 2000s, 2010s brawl to the outside, smack someone on the west sign, and then brawl some more, and a lot of just pummeling single down offense that went on too long. I mean, the match was 26 minutes. It was not a short match. And so there definitely felt like there was a lot of time filler there. However, once they got going into a Mio Momono offensive period, they did garner a lot of near falls, a lot of drama, and it led into some really big moves and big kickouts that really, really got me engaged. And the Mio Momono code red at the end to win the 3 AEW title, comically large on this woman, is good. This is a good move, and now Marvelous has a strong main event match that they can build to, with Takumi Iroha going after the title that she had to vacate against Mio Momono. I would book that immediately for your next Korakuen. And, I mean, you can do two options there. You can have Mio simply lose to Iroha and chase it back, or you could just have her beat her and really cement Mio Momono as a main eventer for this promotion. Because let's not forget, Mio Momono, in the lead up to this match, lost just about every single match she could. Whether that was the tags leading up to Chikayo, where she's getting pinned, or her trial series, where they treated her like a rookie and she got beat by everyone imaginable, from Chihiro to Kaoru Ito. So God help us if that leads to like Tomoko Watanabe or Kaoru Ito challenging Mio Momono for this thing. But if I have any indication over how Nagayo or Meiko Satomura books, it's we probably won't see another defense for many months. Many months, and then it kind of won't matter. But it's not like Marvelous is running a lot anyways. This was an emotional win for her and many Mio Momono fans. And honestly, despite the lack of booking, I do like the move. I do like the final pulling of the trigger of a young talent that you can raise to the top of the promotion. I do like the definitive win over a veteran, and Chikao Nagashima still has a lot in the tank. You know, she's not like Akino or a lower level Sato or someone who's immobile like a Mayumi Ozaki, or some grumpy veteran that's going to kick out at 3 or just book a 3-way and then she just kind of fucks off to the outside of the ring and you pin the other person. You know, this was a definitive one-on-one win where we crowned a new young talent to go over a veteran, and there's a lot that they can work with here. And if I'm Marvelous, I'm avoiding most of the veteran talent in that age bracket. I'd book the Takumi Iroha match. I'd take advantage of some of the freelancers that's available. I'd book a Maria match like they did in West Coast Pro. I'd really try to highlight more young talent getting shots, and then get some talent that's willing to do business like a Maya Yuki or Ryo Mizunami, if they're willing to do it. If not, then tell them to fuck off. And do matches that you can build people up with. That's my take on that. So good job for Mio Momono. I went full 3. 4 stars, 4.25 there. I did think it was better than the Emi Sakura Takase match. And we go to Diana. Oh, the Marvelous. Marvelous attendance. I kind of estimated that around the 500, 550 mark, based on the setup. And then we moved to Diana, which announced a 726 number at Korakuen Hall. Well, Unagi's in the mid-card again, not the semi-main, but she's losing to Kyoko Inoue in 14 minutes. So we see where Unagi Sayaka has really slotted into the indie scene here. Their semi-main event was an absurdly terrible Jaguar Yokota 3-way against Kazuki and Megumi Yabashita. 9 minutes. It could not believe my eyes. But regardless, Jaguar Yokota's hitting Poison Ranas in 2023, and it's wacky. But the main event is the focus here. Haruka Umasaki defeating Ayaka Sato, 25 minutes. I spoke briefly on the Patreon, on the Pure J podcast, over my feelings of Ayaka Sato and the Hanako Nakamori match. Eventually we'll get to see that through and through when the DVD arrives. But in terms of this one, Haruka Omasaki, you would think she had won this title years and years ago. But Ayaka Sato is really the multi-time champion. You got Asuka Veni, Sari won it a couple times because she is a Diana Dojo original. You got who else? I think Nozaki won this for a period of time. I think before she blew out her knee. But Haruka Omasaki's been kind of their prized pupil since Sari. And this was her more or less crowning moment. And I gotta say, this match very much sucked. I thought it was very dull, very boring. And it's very strange because when I look at someone like I guess it'd be Miran, who's like fucking 13, and she's doing moonsaults and stuff in the ring in the Captain's Fall opener. And Hanaka Nakamori and Takase are involved in that. I see a lot more promise out of her, kind of like how I originally saw Umasaki. Umasaki really needs to develop a larger variety of her offense. She's got good forearms, a nice little German suplex, got some drop kicks, but there's not much to her. She doesn't bust out anything new ever. She's very one-dimensional. And then on the other hand, you have Ayaka Sato, who was apparently working through a bum knee, but you'd never really know. You just think, well, she's Ayaka Sato. She's not going to be an exciting main event wrestler. Never has been. She's got her little dinner plate gimmick that she likes whacking without the comedy of Mei Suruga and TJPW. And this match was a lot of just limb work, feeling each other out, and it never really developed into another gear to keep you involved. And the finish wasn't all that hot either. They kind of had one near fall that was interesting, but that's about it. So for like, I do not view like a Marvelous title, a Sendai title, especially a Diana title in high regards. I consider them nice little indie titles that can highlight something for a promotion. But in terms of like a world title, top of the Joshi world, top of the women's wrestling world, not even close. The TJPW title is like second place to me in terms of outside Stardom. So I do not recommend this match at all. I think the Diana number is a little bit flubbed based on their setup. It was very similar to the Marvelous setup and the Oz Academy setup that you can kind of point to. I don't think it's far off from the real number, but I do think that they still embellish these things from time to time. And then, what else do I got? I have... well, if you want to hear more Pure J, that would be on the Patreon. Catch the Wave started. Do not recommend anything from that. That's a great example of I'm not falling for it again. Wave is an afterthought on this podcast. Until Nagisa Nozaki comes back or they have a match that gets some buzz, we'll not be checking more of Catch the Wave out probably until the finals. Ice Ribbon ran a show, under 300 people, of Totoro defeating Ibuki Hoshi. So they already blew that match away, and Ibuki lost. That's about what I expect out of Ice Ribbon these days, and it gets zero buzz, zero notification in the Joshi fandom. If it's not Stardom or TJPW, it'll take some big title change in the indie promotion for people to start talking about it. Because, when you look at the numbers here, Oz Academy's number 3. And nobody talks about Oz Academy, ever. Because it's not interesting. They have their own unique niche fan base, even domestically. But they are the number 3 right now. And by a considerable margin. And by a considerable margin underneath TJPW. It's not close. Does Oz Academy embellish their numbers? Absolutely. But for all intents and purposes, if you look across the scene right now, the ones that are doing consistently higher on a quarterly basis, it's the ones with the veterans of the 90s still frequenting Oz Academy, Ayumi Zaki and Company, Diana Kyoko Inoue and Company. Seedlings run like 4 shows this entire year, so that's where they stand. But that's Arisa Nakajima's joint with 2 wrestlers with her. They're going through their rough times. It doesn't leave a whole lot to get notified and excited about. Now, there is Sariism, a little produce show that she's doing. She, I think she's sold out Shinjuku Face, whatever that means. If it means close to 500, then more power to her. I'm going to look at it the same as Nomads. You're going to do your produce show, maybe once or twice a year. Good for you, I guess, but one-off matches, I'm sure some matches will be good, but in terms of investment in what it means for the future, I'm not holding my breath. It's kind of pointing to me that Sari and Hashimoto in the main event are, it's more likely it's going to go to a time draw than Hashimoto gets pinned by Sari straight up, and that leads to anything. But in terms of Sari on the indie scene, it remains to be seen. Is she going to just kind of hang back and do more indie produce one-shots, or is she going to inject life into the scene? And by that, is she going to be willing to do business in main events? We'll have to see. For all we know, she could, and the scene's going to book her like she was in 2018, where she's winning all these, Diana titles, Sendai titles, and the like. And who knows what happens after that. The thing is, we've kind of seen that already. I kind of have this bad feeling that she's just going to become like what Mizunami and Hiroyo Matsumoto have been doing the last 8 years or so. Is they're gonna dick around in tags and then occasionally get a main event. It's kind of a bummer, but maybe I'll talk about TJPW now. Here we go.
呼ばれて飛び出てジャンジャンジャンジャンよいしょーあややややややややややややあやないなんない恋人なんちゃって朝と飛べ飛べには鳥だと飛べる
TJPW. Boy, oh boy. You're getting news in all the wrong places. Amazing how that works out. I'm worried for their future. And with the announcement that Yuka Sakazaki is leaving the promotion at the end of the year, moving to the United States. I made this prediction a year ago that she would be doing this. And so I'm a year off, but this is what I've been afraid of. Is the booking of TJPW with the same core, 3, 4 if you want to be nice with Rika Tatsumi, but the core 3. Miyu Yamashita and Yuka Sakazaki have been at the top for a decade with very little rivals to call equals at the top. It's okay to cycle talent in and out, and they just really haven't done that, and it's been stale for a number of years. I stand by this. By the time Mizuki got put over to be at that level, it was too late. Now, does that reflect in the attendance? Well, during Golden Week, the big Golden Week bump, TJPW got 774 people to this Cork and Hall show. And that is their largest attendance outside of their kind of Grand Princess and Summer Sun. It's the largest Cork and Hall in I think it's before the pandemic, right? January 2020, where they got that 1,400. So, throughout all the promotions, we saw, Joshi promotions, we saw about 100 to 200 people bump that they'd normally get inside Golden Week. So I'm going to chalk that up to a kind of a nice little win in a way. Is that indicative of what they're going to do going forward? I think it remains to be seen. I'm more on the selling stock side than buying it, especially with this announcement of Yuka Sakazaki leaving. And now with, Miyu Yamashita and Maki Ito continuing to do tours abroad, I think it's a matter of time before both Miyu and Maki also, quote-unquote, graduate from TJPW. So this is what I'm talking about. You need to put over talent strong, the talent that's going to stay. And the more you start announcing these things, the less they're going to mean when they leave. I go back to that Takeshita, leaving mark. His last thing was putting over Endo, and then he went away. And now he's gonna whenever he comes back, he's a special attraction. They don't really do much with him, right? What you can do with Yuka Sakazaki is now you just say, hey, you're leaving the territory. You're gonna put over Miyu Watanabe. You're gonna put over Yuki Arai. You're gonna put over whomever. Anyone that you see relevant that could be at the top, Arisa Endo, Hikari Noah, I don't care. She needs to be in meaningful programs, and the first person that beats her, if they do this, it's going to mean the most. And that's got to be Miyu Watanabe. And I'm not even a fan of hers, but she is clearly trademarked to be at the top, not just by the fans, but that's really who looks like has the best shot right now of getting there. Will they do that? I don't know. For all I know, they could do Mizuki against Shoko and Rika forever. I don't have a crystal ball for these things, but we got our annual Tetsuya Koda saying the new generation's going to step up. We got all this talent, and then insert name that he thinks could be there. He does this all the time. But you need to put over these people strong and put them in programs and beat people. If they're not going to be in this promotion much longer, even if it's inside a year, you got plenty of time to do stuff with them. I just don't have the confidence that that's the route they're going to make. There's no history of that with the booker or the promotion. So I'm giving the flowers with the attendance for now. I'm giving the flowers to Mizuki and putting on what a wacky main event against Sori Rek. Very strange. About as good as it could have been. I actually expected worse, but look, big, tall, scary gaijin in Japan works, 99% of the time. So history was on the side, and Mizuki bumped her ass off for this woman. So good job there. Big thumbs up. Nice little 1 out of 3 match. I think the match that stole the show was the Miyu Watanabe Arisa Endo match, which was just under 14 minutes. Great submission game. Look, for as much as I dislike Miyu Watanabe and her character and demeanor, she knows how to put a match together strong. Or whomever the agent is involved, or whomever's giving her advice, whatever the case, her matches hit quite a lot. Now, do I think she's like a 3.5-star general? I do. I still have yet to see something that's like truly great out of the woman, but there's plenty of time for that. When I watch Miyu against Arisa Endo, I think both these two need to be pushed higher immediately, rather than be in a mid-card situation like this, because they've definitely earned the trust to go higher. So there's your two people I'd put over immediately. The Shoko Yuka against Maki and Yuki Arai match was fine. A little on the long side, 16 minutes, but that's okay. Did enjoy it, but there's again. Yuki Arai's anniversary match, and Yuka's leaving. She's teaming with Maki Ito. Would this have been a good time for her to just pin Maki in a tag or something, or continue that story? Because if Maki Ito's leaving and she's always been booked as a loser, then maybe they should have played on that story a little bit more, or I don't know. I'm kind of mixed-minded on the results of that, but Rika Tatsumi Suzume, look, I like Rika Tatsumi matches. They land with me very well. This was no different. think I went 2 out of 3 on this one against Suzume. Suzume and her like sci-fi future puffy floaties. This woman needs new gear help desperately. So when I read online and read chatter that TJPW is fine, they got the talent, it's like, okay, no one's arguing that they don't have a nice little roster, and there's a lot of interesting young talents that could possibly be on top. But the more time that goes on in 2023, I think there's going to be an exposed nature here where the main event's gone and the talent's not quite there to take over yet, and they're not over themselves. We're kind of seeing the results of that in Dragongate, except Dragongate tried to take the time to put talent over the veterans while they still could. That's why I'm really emphasizing a lot of these programs that need to be developed to get this talent over. Yuka, Miyu, Maki, and company that I think are leaving imminently should be putting these people over. Will they do that? I'm let's just say I'm not buying stock on the matter. That's what should happen. And speaking of just kind of booking philosophies here, Ryu Mizunami in this promotion is like, what are we doing? She comes in, she has nice little singles matches, beats your roster, and then she fucks off to the netherworld of the Joshi Indies. It's kind of like that Hikaru Shida match against Noah, where she just put her in the dirt, look at the lights, and then see ya, I'm off to AEW. Mizunami, would it kill them to book her against Mizuki and Mizuki wins, or book someone that's actually going to get a big singles victory over her at a Wrestle Princess or Summer Sun or something of the like? Because these singles matches just don't lead to anything. They're just filler. I mean, it's nice filler, but this is a promotion I expect more out of, and being the number 2, let's do something more interesting than just random one-offs. I already said that about a lot of the foreign talent that comes in and has a match or two and then leaves, and then you introduce someone else again, and they're kind of taking up those spots. But maybe that's the strategy, because when your main event's gone, you have to fill in the gap somehow. Your mid-card is very absent, and it's very noticeable throughout what we're seeing from TJPW. The mid-card's going to struggle a lot. And, unless your main event is super strong, you have to rely on a strong mid-card to kind of carry the weight. And if these Mizuki defenses either grow stale or they're not hitting like they should, I guess Rika Tatsumi, you have someone to rely on there, so they at least have a backup plan for some of these. But in terms of like what we're seeing going forward, it's a lot of rookies mucking up these undercards, and it doesn't leave a whole lot to be desired for strengthened mid card. Could that just be where Miyo Watanabe ends up? I'm kind of worried in that regard. So that's TJPW. We'll keep an eye on them for how they're going to perform in the coming months, and going into I guess it's Summer Sun. We'll get some interesting developments as more matches are announced, more programs are announced, and what we see going forward. Look, time for Stardom. Let's go, right? Okay, everybody. Yeah, I gotta play Micah's music. This woman with the red hair, she's hitting right now. And boy, do I want to play that Mina Shirakawa music, but I gotta play my favorite wrestler in Stardom. But boy, I like the Mina Shirakawa train. everyone's joined on with me. It's amazing to see. I got my match ratings here from Stardom because I did catch up on a lot of the house shows, and a lot of things are hitting right now, which is great to see. So I've somehow I missed a trios title match back in like April, where it was Prominence against Queen's Quest, in which Suzu Suzuki pinned Utami. I'm talking. I don't know what happened with me on that one, but I'm talking like 4.5 stars, full 3 region there. Vastly enjoyed that. If I look to other kind of house show stuff, even though I gave like a lot of 1s and 2 out of 3 recs, like the stuff with Queen's Quest and God's Eye in terms of like Mirai and Ami Sourei, anything involving Suzu Suzuki and Mei Sarah has been hitting on what they're doing, and the multiple builds between Cosmic Angels and Club Venus, whether that's Maria May doing her thing, Saori Ano getting involved with like Kairi and company and Julia. There's Mina Shirakawa. There's Mina and the build to the Natsupoi match that we saw, mixing in what's eventually going to be the double title match against Tam Nakano, which I'll get to those thoughts in a bit. But let me go back to some here. We got let's see. There's Stardom Nagoya. There's the show we're gonna talk about. Where is it? There was no, that's going back a little too far to talk about, but Maika Himika against Julia and Shuri. That was back in April. That was good. There's a lot good going on in Stardom in terms of like output and keeping it within the roster and building. And so this Fukuoka Goddess Festival show and then New Blood 8 really invoked a lot of confidence in where I think Stardom is heading for the foreseeable future. In terms of Fukuoka Goddess Festival, 1338 in attendance for a year-over-year increase. So 1156 at the International Center was last year, with a very comparable card with tag titles on the line and Wonder title defense with Sai Kamatani. So it's not quite the big increase year over year that we're used to seeing from Stardom, and perhaps there's some Golden Week clashing going on there with so much wrestling to go to and whatnot. Or it's very simply just a nice little increase and a good testament to whom they're building up for these shows and how. And the people I've really focused on is Tam Nakano, Mina Shirakawa, and Maika, along with whatever is going on in Queen's Quest. They're building up a lot of things well regarding kind of the new talent that looks like it's going to be a focus for the rest of 2023. As it stands right now, I don't feel that Tam Nakano is going to lose this thing before the 5-star. There's always still a chance. Never count the Hatman out. But Mina Shirakawa, the Mirai challenge seems to be in the distance, and I'm really getting the feeling they want to put Mirai in the red belt situation at some point here this summer. I don't see her challenging for the white belt unless they want to stick with tradition. So let's get into this card. 1338 in attendance. Like I said, we had a pre-show Rumble. Suzu was going to win. Suzu is more or less signed with Stardom. As, we get a lot of the things I was talking about the last podcast where the money's flowing and looks like the freelancer frenzy is done. And with the retirement of Himika, which seemed to have gone over well at Korakuen on this day, with a full packed house of 1,500 plus, Love to see that. There's spots open. So Mei Seira, Suzu Suzuki, Konami looks like she's back. They're definitely investing in themselves, and to throw more kind of critique at TJPW. I mean, they seem profitable, but all you hear is talent leaving, and yes, there's rookies debuting, but there's also rookies debuting in other companies. Where's the investment in TJPW? Because I just don't see it. But sticking on Stardom here, Hanan Mayu Iwatani defeat Club Venus, Jessie and Maria May. Sariano and Tam Nakano defeat the Ruwaka Starlight Kid combo. Momo and Tora defeat Konami and Shuri in 7 minutes, which, look, you kind of felt like one of these two tag teams were going to do something, maybe three. You got the feeling that I didn't really feel Sariano and Tam Nakano were going to challenge for the tag titles, so that led to Mayu and Hanan or Momo and Tora being those challengers, because that's what these beginning matches really felt like. We're building to something, we don't know who though. And this match in particular, really focused on a lot of Momo Watanabe in the ring, and Tora's her little helper minion. Okay. Tora stinks. I just don't think she has it. But if she's in a tag team with Momo Watanabe and she's a helper, then, me getting 5 to 10 minute singles action of Momo Watanabe against the people like Shuri or Konami, I'm all for it. That's what we got here. This was at least that in terms was excellent. I really enjoyed that. And then we got to a big time match here. I went full 3 on this sucker. It's Julia and Micah, Crazy Bloom, defeating the Can They Coexist Sai Kamatani and Utami Hayashida. 16.5 minutes. Micah was on something in this match. She has found a new level of confidence. She's in her hometown. They went the full time. Micah just definitively pinning rival Utami, looking at the lights with that Michinoku driver. She's hitting big lariats. She's putting Sai Kamatani away. Julia was in there to play kind of the backup and give Micah a lot of the spotlight, which I thought was a brilliant match format. And Utami taking another pinfall makes it really seem like something's in the works with QQ. Could that mean, we're seeing that Saya dyed her hair red, I believe, and there's a lot of other people with red hair. Could there be something there? Guess we'll find out in time. But we got some movement happening behind the scenes, which is interesting. I love this match. Julia being how do I put it? She's more or less a heel, but Micah was also just sitting on Utami long after the pin, pushes the ref, and then demands he raises her hand. This feels like, if Micah's not going for a big singles title, this feels like a big time tag team that's going to go forward. It would not shock me personally if Crazy Bloom here is going to take those tag titles from the new eras at some point down the line. It really definitely feels like they're gaining some momentum, especially Micah. Azumi Mei Seira, 10 minutes, high speed. It was a high speed match. It's going to have a ceiling unless they do some crazy stuff. I expected Mei Seira to somehow win this, but Azumi continues on with her nice little junior title here. Match was pretty good. I went 2 out of 3. I've really enjoyed a lot of what Mei Seira has to offer. I think she's fitting in nicely. Saki Kashima comes out, and, now it's a 3-way with Fukigen Death at the next pay-per-view. God's Eye, the new eras, Ami Sourei and Mirai defeat FWC, Hazuki, and Koguma, 17.5 minutes. This ruled too. I went full 3 on this. I don't think it's as good as the DDM QQ match that preceded it, but this is the tag team title matches that I've missed so much from 2020. One, from what we did get to see of the Julia and Shuri team, but for the 2022 FWC Black Desire Meltier. Like, these were the matches I liked. These are the matches I'm interested in. These are the matches with movement and excitement. And nobody in this match trying to big league and no-sell, whether that's their style or not. We got Mirai taking bumps on her neck. We got Ami Sure going ass over tea kettle over the ropes. We got good near-fall sequences with Koguma, and Hazuki remains one of the best on this roster in terms of the ring. And she was on something again. She just has so much fire. Between her and Momo, they're part of that other generation. And I'm really wondering what the plan is for them in this landscape. Could we see some more white and red belt defenses that they could go after? Or are they going to continue to do some interesting tags? I mean, I got no problem with their tag matches. I think it's a good use for them when they're not, going for titles, right? And I think this was a good match to get the New Eras back on track after that Black Mark abysmal match where they won the titles in a count-out fashion, because it would not have shocked me if they would have lost this match. And what Stardom's now doing is making a story out of that, because in the post, Tora and Momo are cutting promos on them, calling them kind of weak with the way they won. But this match was a good step in the right direction, and I could see Ami and Mirai going forward with a strong tag title run against teams like FWC to get them over the way that the 7-Up crew didn't. Mina Shirakawa. Oh, and the Momo Tora match, I got no problem with them being challengers. Momo Watanabe has been very strong. We'll get to another match of hers. And I think she's gonna do very well against Ami and Mirai. And then we got our main event. Natsupoi challenging Mina Shirakawa, 20 minutes, 27 seconds. Has an 8.7 on Cage Match. 68 total votes, which kind of doubles and triples and quadruples a lot of other Joshi promotions out there. But anyways, Natsupoi, big entrance, and then the lights turn off and we get a silhouette heavy dance of Mina Shirakawa. The sparklers, fireworks are in. This woman is taking everything she has and she's making it star level worthy. She is on another level right now compared to a lot of the roster. She's cutting promos. She's got her group that's doing well. This is great to see. I was like the first person on the Mina Shirakawa train in singles, and everyone's hopping on with me. It's great to see. The confidence in this woman is something else. What a great spot, and this Wonder of Stardom title this year is doing so great. Once that Ami Sourei defense in January was over and done with, this title has just hit with Saya Kamatani Hazuki, Saya Kamatani Mina, and now Mina Natsupoi. The level of confidence this title has right now is outstanding to see. Crowd was into this. The kicks were on point for Natsupoi throughout. They did the German suplex apron spot right away, and I loved the build to this on the tours of Natsupoi consistently avoiding the leg work and leg shots that Mina would go for, and they teased it in the beginning of the match rather than kind of what you see at a Shuri matches where it's more grappling, where Mina and Poi just went to the ropes, and I love Mina going for the dropkick early and Poi moving out of the way and avoided it as long as she could. And once Mina got a couple shots in, you'd see Poi kind of favoring the leg a little bit. She's hitting it, and the more it was worked, the more peril she slowly started to go into, and start playing more evasive counter wrestling. And Mina Shirakawa was on the offense, because there were multiple points in this match where it looked like Natsupoi was going to get some sort of advantage. And, you look at the outside of the ring and you see a lot of Club Venus out there. You don't see a lot of DDM. I'm putting it that way. You don't see a lot of Cosmic Angels over there. You got full team support, home court advantage almost with Mina Shirakawa. That kind of paid off. I think there was some merit to it, at least in terms of kayfabe. The eventual shots where Mina's going for her strike combo. She had some real good kicks in this match, but particularly her eventually hitting the back fist was so crucial to the match, and her finally pulling off her little. I think she calls it like dragon screw Mina, but I like calling it the one-winged screw that she does to really put her away, and the emphasis on getting the figure 4 in the way she did was all done to perfection. It's high level. It's high level match format. It's a formula that really engages the viewer. I've seen nothing but praise for this match. I really liked it. It's an easy full 3. Do I think it's a top 3 Stardom match this year? It sure as hell might be. Definitely top 5. I put it up there. And honestly, I put this match above a lot of the Joshi Indie stuff too. So the Joshi Indie's got to pick it up. Pick it up, brother. Yeah, so Mina wins with her, inverted DDT leg lock driver thing. I forget what she calls it. Great match. It's a fantastic match. And I do recommend it quite a lot. And then in the post-match, we get our announcement and challenge. Mina wants to go for the red belt. So we're continuing this Club Venus Cosmic Angel storyline, Mina versus Tam. You have to wonder if this was the direction they wanted to do with like an Arisa Hoshiki Mayu from a couple years ago. I have to also wonder if Mayu and Tam was going to be some sort of direction like this, and then kind of plans change accordingly to who's hot. Regardless of the circumstance, this is where we're at now. And our next pay-per-view is Mina versus Tam, title versus title, Wonder versus Red. And it's a hot storyline. It feels hot. It feels important. The groups are feuding. There's good promos involved. I'm very much into the idea of the match and the build to it. The problem is it's a double title match in Japan, and we know, and just history. We know how this ends. Get your Rossi Ogawa memes out now. Booking 30-minute draw. You just feel it coming. And you just don't feel like either are going to lose to each other as well. So is that going to be enough to draw the crowd and interest for that next show? Because there's nothing else on that card. I mean, an Azumi 3-way with Saki Kashima and the comedy clown, like, can't say I'm feeling that one. So it's a one-match show. I mean, I'm going to be into the match regardless, but I can't say I'm like totally bought into it because of the history, and I just struggle with getting into it to that extent. Could they just have Tam win? I mean, they could. And then what do you do from there? They say that they're going to establish both titles as singles, but it's almost like an argument not worth even discussing because we kind of know how these things play out. And until we see something play out differently, then I'm just kind of treating this like a 30-minute draw. And I just wish they could have put a little bit more effort into where we're going. But like I said, it's a hot program regardless. It feels hot. So who am I to judge? I mean, unless the show draws like 900 people, we kind of have very little to discuss here. And until we see what has taken place, both from a business perspective and a match perspective. So let's go into New Blood, and fuck it, I'm gonna play another theme. We're gonna play this one. Here we go. double tam action at New Blood. Sold out show. 407 people in the small Shinagawa Intercity Hall. I have to think that if they could have booked a little bit of bigger venue, they could have drawn more for the show, because I think there was a lot to like from this show. I think there was a lot to take away in the positive. This was an enjoyable New Blood. I think it was better than their little Yokohama gimmick that they had for sure. I think dare I say it's New Blood's best show? Stardom NXT, Stardom Dark, if you will. I don't know. I'm just making comedy parallels, but I was really into this show as a development of talent and a way to introduce people for sure. We got so the number is the best that they've done in quite some time, minus the Yokohama one. I'm still bullish that they could have probably broken that Yokohama number with a card like this and gotten at least comparable if the venue was it. Now, do I think they should do these in like Shinjuku Face? I don't. I would much rather a venue like this than Shinkiba First Ring or the Face. I do like the changing up the feel of where they go. Waka defeats Aya Sakura, 6 minutes. It's what you think it is. The Inaba sisters go to a 15-minute draw with the Hanan Hina sisters. So sister versus sister goes to a draw. I would have kind of just pinned Hina here, to be honest, but Azusa Inaba has like 4 matches to her name. This match was very rough in the beginning, especially with Hina of all people, actually. But once Hanan and Tomoka Inaba got in there, it really came into its own, and I pretty much gave every match on this show except 1 or 2, 1 out of 3. I didn't give anything to the Waka match. So this was kind of fire, and I'm gonna call it like I see it. I do not see future ace material in Hanan. I hear this all the time on various other Joshi podcasts or Joshi fans that Hanan is the next ace of Stardom, or she's primed for it. Look at this ace look. She's got new music. That's ace level. I don't know. In her age bracket, in that group, I mean, I have tons of people ahead of her. I'll even throw Momo Watanabe in there because she's only like 23. She's not that far ahead in terms of age. There's a lot of people more skilled than Hanan, even at 1920, right? Suzu Suzuki comes to mind as like number 1, but anyways. Mei Sarah, Suzu Suzuki defeat Chan Yoda, Mai Sakurai 9 minutes, and even in post, Mai Sakurai's got to do her I'm more glamorous shtick, you peasant fucks. And Chan Yoda, as her tag partner, continuing, just makes it all the more funny. The more she leans into this fair lady stuff, Chan Yoda is like jock bodyguard extraordinaire. It's so funny. Love it. Mei Sarah Suzu, great tag team. Let's keep this up. The Supernova Trial Series continues. This time, Momo Watanabe got to beat that rookie ass, Miyu Amasaki. 11 minutes. I went 2 out of 3 on this. I thought this was phenomenal. Momo kicking the shit out of her, then wants to lean too much into the heel thing, as she does, and that proves to be her downfall for a time. She sells her ass off for this woman, and Miyu's looking more and more smooth, and get this, the more she works, the better she gets. Loved it. Momo kicks her head off. I think she hit her with the Peach Sunrise or something or variation. High kicks her, picks her up off the mat like a heel, and then she does the B driver on her and puts her away. It's great. She basically cuts a promo that says, "You will call me Momo Watanabe-san, you bitch ass hoe," and got out of the ring. And there's a great camera shot of Miyu flat on her face, and then it cuts to Tommy just like disappointed ringside. That's the kind of wrestling I like. Nanai beat Ruaka in 12 minutes because, of course, it had to last that long. This was rough. the formula of Nanai in these kinds of singles matches is what she's good at against youngsters. I mean, from her early days in Stardom to her trying to do Seedling, very much the same. That's what she knows. That's what she's good at. And she gets to go over in the end every time. She gets to have her no selling for the majority of the match. Prove your best. Hit me if you want to hit me kind of situation. But this woman's broken. She screams. She doesn't really bump because she can't. Her knee is shot. Her neck looks hurt. Her back is broken. It's tough to watch. And I'm not just saying that as someone who just doesn't like Nanai Takahashi, the way she is, the way she wrestles, her persona, the whole passion thing. The broken athlete thing depresses me no matter who they are. And I still went 1 out of 3 on it. I'm being fair. I think that the formula does work. Look, the Nanai Miyu Amasaki match was good. Who else did she? I think it was Nanai Yuna Mizumori was pretty good. I think they had a match. There's been a number of these Nanai youngster singles, which are okay. They're fine. New Blood Tag Title match. In more charisma Umasaki, but still can't really wrestle all that good. Teaming with Starlight Kid against Hanako and Lady C. 16 and a half minutes. Look, Karma, she's trying, guys. She's really trying. But Shiver Sleep isn't it. But Starlight Kid against Hanako and Lady C, that's it. Yeah. I won't ramble on. We did get our next challengers of the Inaba sisters, which I'm super into. Looking forward to that. And kind of in a shock, Rina defeats Ami Sourei, center of the ring, submits her with the hydrangea a la Hana Kimura. So we got Mirai bumping her ass off, taking neck first Germans in matches. We got Ami Sourei submitting to teenagers clean. Boy, funny how all of a sudden they're not quote unquote sandbagging anymore. No problem there, huh? Okay, anyways. I enjoyed it. New champion. Cool to see. I like the move with Rina. I do. And this kind of graduates Ami Sourei away from the future title, and I think she was kind of past that already. Then we got our main event, Double Tam. This was entertaining as hell. It's now Ishikawa being Tam Nakano, and she looks strikingly like her. She even got her own gear. They had a whole video package building it up. It was fucking hilarious. And what a way to just continue to dance on Ice Ribbon's grave. The ice caps are melting day in and day out. And if you, I mean, it's so wacky how this is just, okay. So I say we, but, people that listen to this podcast and myself have been saying for many years that the Joshi scene is too split up, too segregated, there's just too many promotions, and there's just not enough talent out there to fill them all, right? So, unfortunately, Ice Ribbon is essentially integrated into Stardom now. And I would have liked to see like a Marvelous or Seedling kind of be absorbed into Stardom rather than Ice Ribbon personally. I liked what Ice Ribbon did for many years. It was my favorite Joshi promotion for a good long time there. But this is the fruits of labor, where you have now a strong roster of people with, New Blood is essentially the third best Joshi promotion. I personally have it at number 2, just in terms of my fandom, because I think they're doing better and more interesting stuff than TJPW. That's just my opinion and fandom of it all. But even in terms of like ticket sales for rookies, more or less, what we'll call them, and the match outputs are more consistent, I feel. Certainly more interesting in their building things, card to card. Hell, we got Miyu Amasaki calling out Azumi for the next show, and Osmi hasn't even been on a New Blood show yet, so there's a lot of legs that they can go in and out here with the Stardom main roster, if you will. I mean, hell, they brought Tam Nakano, the red belt champion, into the main event against a former Ice Ribbon wrestler who looks like her. It's good stuff. I like these moves. Unfortunately, it had to be Ice Ribbon, but the consolidation of talent, it has to be done at some point. In a perfect world, TJPW would invest their money and get some of these freelancers into them. I mean, truly, what is stopping them from signing a Miyuki Takase, a Maeki, whomever, to bolster their main event and roster and bolster the up-and-coming talent rather than just, kind of nothing. And there's just not enough out there. I mean, I would love for Pure J to consolidate with a Seedling and the young Diana. And we have a consolidated promotion that has a strong roster, a strong core. But unfortunately, that's kind of not where we're at. But back to New Blood here. Yeah, Tam Nakano against Tam Nakano. They bolted the entrances. When the second entrance came on for Now to come out, the crowd audibly laughed because it was just the same music again. She's got her own fake red belt, and boy, when Tam Nakano started ripping up the cardboard red belt, that crowd was mad. They went boo. And they had a good match. They had a strong match. Nice little 2 out of 3. I was in a good mood. And Tam puts her away as expected, but a good introduction for a new talent. And if this is what we see more of Now Ishikawa going forward, then hey, I'm all for it. Let's see some more of this. And I think New Blood was New Blood 8 was a success. And yeah, we're 8 shows into this now, and I think we're 3 shows into 2023 for New Blood. No showcase. Still no showcase, just to throw that out there. Thank God. God, those shows were bad. And that'll kind of do it. That's a podcast. Very excited to see what Stardom is going to bring going forward. I'm super interested in the future of TJPW with what's on the horizon there. And then I guess the Joshi Indies, we'll see what happens from the young talent perspective going forward. Who knows what's going to happen there? I have my theories, but we'll go over that another time. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you next time.